Hello and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today we've got a very fun episode. It's Saturday, June 14th, and in just a couple hours or so, I'm headed over to the State Farm Arena to see my first UFC event live, Kamaru Usman, Joaquin Buckley in Atlanta. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's a really, really fun card. We're going to preview it all. I'm going to be there live tweeting. I'm going to try and post some crowd footage. It's going to be sick. I really cannot wait. I've never been to a fight in a really big arena. I've been to some smaller stuff, but I'm really, really excited for this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Also tonight you've got Richardson Hitchins, George Kambosos. Obviously I'm not going to watch that till tomorrow, but the build of this week has been a lot of fun. It's not the best fight on paper, but at least in terms of them being able to promote it and it being entertaining, it's definitely been it's been living up to it so far. And there's a good card in New York. You got BKFC, Nonito Donaire, and Juan Francisco Estrada are both in action this weekend as well. We'll talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about the fights that happened over the last couple of days. We had a PFL card, which was a lot of fun. We have our first final set for August. OTX had a card last night. Some other news, and the announcement of a big Real season card. But speaking of the announcement of Moses Itauma, Dillian Whyte, we also had the announcement earlier this week, the official announcement of Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford. In the last episode, I didn't really talk about it because I had a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about that now. So all the details pretty much is they're going to fight September 13th in Las Vegas. We do not have a venue at the moment. It could be Allegiant Stadium. That was the initial idea. We don't know where it is as of right now. I'm starting to think, it may be T-Mobile Arena just because that's the classic what everyone does nowadays. The stadium may be a little bit too big, but I also know that Turkey does like his stadium fights. So we'll see what they do. End up choosing. I'd like to see it in the stadium. That'd be pretty cool, but they have to be confident they'll sell all the tickets there and that they can make it a good experience for the fans. But I would love to see that. Turkey is saying that he is wanting to put on a big undercard for it. We'll talk about that in a second. But there's going to be 3 press conferences for this fight. June 20th in Riyadh, so that's next Sunday. Next Friday. Next Sunday in New York City, June 22nd at the Fantastics Fest, or Fanatics Fest, I think it's called. And then June 27th in Las Vegas, and that will be at the T-Mobile Arena. So, 3 press conferences. I don't know if they're all needed, but what's interesting is that Dana White will be involved. He will be promoting this fight. This is the first TKO boxing card, if you'd like to say that. It's still Ring Magazine. It's still Riyadh Season. It's still Sella. It's all the same. But what's also interesting is that it seems like Dana White has brought back his Zuffa boxing. I'm not really sure. It's a brand that he had when he was promoting Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, and I don't know if that's the name of the actual company that they're choosing for it. I really hope it's not because it's just a terrible name. But I don't know. We'll see. Who ends up being on the card. Turkey is saying that he wanted to have big fights. He does not want it to be just a ton of big fights. He wants it to have big talent of young up-and-coming stars, because, again, this card is going to be on Netflix. It's nothing. It's going to be on Netflix. Obviously, we Jake Paul, Mike Tyson on there, about to have Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano 3. Those are both MVP cards. It's now going to be a Ring Magazine, and, we know the UFC is trying to get an event on Netflix not an event, but a whole deal for Netflix for the UFC in 2026 and beyond. And so I think that this is definitely in good taste for them to do this, and it'll make it easier to get that card structure going. I don't know what the structure would look like for UFC on Netflix, but Turkey Al Sheikh is also looking to go on Netflix, and I love the move to Netflix because it's not a pay-per-view. It's going to be for free. More people can see it. It's a subscription everybody already has, so I like it. And this will be the first big Turkey card under it. But anyways, yeah, the undercard is going to be more young stars coming into town because it's going to have such a huge audience, not hidden behind a paywall. So, Turkey says he wants it to be, these next generation. And the names that he specifically chose, he had Christian and Billy, Junto Nakatani, Muhammad Alakel, Ryuto Tsutsumi, Justin Floria, Emiliano Alvarado, Jamar Talley, Abdullah Mason, and Nishant Dev. So these are just some of Turkey's favorite prospects and even champions. I mean, Junto Nakatani is a unified multiple division world champion. he says he would be leading the charge, so I'm guessing he wants to have him like I don't know if he'd put him in the co-main event, or at least high up on the card. I'm not sure who he would fight. He'd obviously be moving to 122 pretty soon. I wouldn't be surprised. Excuse me. If Turkey wants to do Inoue Nakatani in this card, he shouldn't. I mean, it's not going to happen. Inoue has a fight the same weekend actually against MJ Akhmadaliev. So it could be Nakatani against. I wouldn't even know who he would fight at 122. I really can't even think of anyone at the moment. Because Inoue is the only champion, and you would assume Nakatani would immediately jump into a title fight. But there's some solid names there. Maybe someone like Marlon Tapales he could fight. Alan Picasso, but he's got a fight announced just recently for Kainosuke Kameda on July 19th on the Pacquiao Barrios undercard, which is a really, really fun fight, by the way. That'll be a lot of great action. But, before then, I don't really know who Junto is going to fight on this card, but I like to see it. Christian and Billy, he says he wants him on this card. And Billy has a fight on June 27th, so about like a 3 or 2.5 month turnaround. A little bit tight. He's in there with Maciej Shuletsky, which is a fight he should win, and there's a lot of guys at 168 that Billy could be in. That really would be a great place to put Billy, because he gets a really big win there, calls out the winner of the main event, says, hey, I'm mandatory for the title, I am next. And if people see him on Netflix, and if he puts on a big show, people are going to be saying, the casual fans, everyone's going to be saying, let's see Canelo versus Billy, or, let's see Crawford versus Billy, who knows? So I like that. I like Abdullah Mason being on there. I think that could happen. Reitu Tsusumi, I'm sure, will be on there. And then the rest of it are just all kind of other prospects. Muhammad Alakel will certainly be on there, as he's from Saudi Arabia. And then Nishant Dev is fighting this weekend. We'll talk about that in a bit. And Joseph Valori is great. So it's interesting. He wants to do more prospects. He even said, you can ask for people on Twitter to reach out to him. It seems like he was going to do, anybody, a real Rocky story. I don't know about that. But in terms of young prospects being featured, I like that. I do want to have some big title fights on there. Give me some kind of a big world championship as well. But I want some good stuff on it, and I want to see the next generation come through and show out. But Turkey is saying that he doesn't want any more Tom and Jerry fights, meaning he doesn't want anybody to be running around the ring anymore. We're hearing that the ring size for this Ring 3 card, the Berlanga, Shiraz, and Stevenson Zepeda doubleheader, is going to be an 18 by 18 ring. So it's a little bit smaller than usual. Obviously, I think you can have up down to 16 by 16 ring. It's not that small, but it's going to be a smaller ring. It's going to press the action, which is good for William Zepeda, not as good for Shakur Stevenson. And Berlanga and Shiraz, we know, are going to come to fight. And I don't hate guys like Shakur. I don't think that they are boring necessarily. There's a difference between running and outboxing off the back foot, and I quite enjoy somebody like Shakur who can do it, and they're entertaining and how clean and precise they are, and not wanting to get hit. I also understand that sometimes that can be bad. Look at Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez. That fight was terrible. He was running. Devin Haney was running, and sure, he won every round, but he was running. And you need to also throw. You need to have some good action in there. So I get it. I think that's honestly the main catalyst behind this decision is Devin Haney and William Skull, guys who were honestly kind of running. So I get it, but we'll see how this works out. Maybe the only thing I'm worried about is it going to affect certain matchmaking from Turkey, where he'll be like, I don't want to see these two guys fight, even if it's the fight to make. Anyways, they also have announced a Ring Magazine GOAT podcast. This isn't going to be a normal thing, but it's going to be Canelo, Crawford, Dana White, Tom Brady, and Shaquille O'Neal. So I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know why Tom Brady and Shaq are there. And Dana White being on there is also a little bit weird. I mean, I feel like these personalities would just have a really weird conversation. But, it could be kind of fun. Obviously, when they announced this, they had so much press stuff already ready to go. They're really going to give this a huge push. And I think they could be quite successful with it. So I'm excited to see the fight build up. I think it's going to be a huge one. One of the biggest fights, maybe the biggest fight of the 2020s. It's going to be crazy. So I'm looking forward to it. And it all starts off with the press conference, actually in about 6 days' time. But we're going to talk about the card we've got coming up tonight. Two of them, two big ones. UFC Atlanta. Kamaru Usman returns against Joaquin Buckley. This fight is going to be incredible. It's going to be all action. I can't wait for it. Usman, he hasn't been in the cage in a long time. I think the last time was against Hamza, and that was a year and a half ago, and he hasn't won in a while before that. So he's not been on the best run, quite frankly. And Joaquin Buckley is coming into a very, very good run. I think he's 5 or 6-0 at welterweight after moving down, and he's just been on a tremendous run. They're both really, really fun fighters to watch. I've no doubt this is going to be a great fight. There's been a lot of animosity. Um, it's hard to choose a winner here, just because I feel like Buckley is kind of that guy right now. He's kind of coming up this division really well, and not on the biggest stage until recently. Has he been getting really good wins and being this underground, rising star, and he's there now. And he's a really big fight against Usman, and Usman is a guy who, could have been, if he had stayed more active, in big fights this whole time, but he hasn't fought in so long. I thought he was retired for a second. So I don't really know who I'm picking to win this fight. It's tough to say because I do feel like Usman has that championship pedigree. Like, this guy was the best in the UFC for a bit, but he's just not that guy anymore, I'm worried. And I feel like Buckley is really coming into his own. So I'm going to tentatively pick Joaquin Buckley. I don't want to push it too far and say he's going to finish him or anything, because Usman could finish Buckley for all I know. But I just think it's going to be a terrific fight. It could go either way. I'm so happy this is the main event for UFC Atlanta. I'm big fans of both of them, and I can't wait to see them in action tonight. Co-main event, Rose Namajunas, Miranda Maverick. That's going to be a lot of fun. I got Rose Namajunas winning. She was on a really good run until she got beat last November, I think. So I see her winning this. You get Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Petrosky. There's a lot of really, really fun fights on this card. Like Cody Garbrandt, Rayoni Barcelos is tremendous. I don't know if Garbrandt wins that. He could, but it's a really, really fun fight. Mansour Abdul Malik versus Cody Brundage is going to be awesome. Abdul Malik is a really, really fun guy coming into the scene. Alonzo Menefield, Omar Sy is a great fight. Paul Craig, Rodolfo Bellato closes out the prelims. That'll be a lot of fun. I think I got Bellato in that one. Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee is awesome. I can't wait to see Michael Chiesa. I remember him being pretty fun. Maybe the most fun fight of the card, or at least the one that I'm honestly most excited for, is Malcolm Wellmaker versus Chris Moutinho. Wellmaker is like a huge favorite. I think the last time I saw it was like minus 2,500, something like that, which is absurd for UFC. Really, really fast rising prospect. Had a tremendous KO just about 2 months ago. Wanted to get on this card. They added him just the other week against Chris Moutinho. And yeah, very, very sizable odds difference here. And, he's from Atlanta, and I think he's going to get a real big knockout, and I can't wait to see the arena erupt when he does. Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa, Ricky Simone versus Cameron Smotherman, Phil Rao versus Anjay Lusa, Jamie Lynn North versus Vanessa Demopoulos. So some of the earlier fights on the card, I'm not too familiar with a lot of the people, but I think it's going to be a really, really fun event. I can't wait. 13 fights in total. And like I said, I'll be at the arena. I'll be tweeting the whole time. I'll be in the stands. I'm going to try to tweet. I don't know what the service is going to be like in there with 20,000 people, but it should go well, and I'm really excited. So it's going to be a fun night. Also tonight, Richardson Hitchins makes his first defense of his IBF super lightweight world title against George Kambosos. I don't know how George Kambosos has done it, but he's got himself another title shot somehow. And yeah, he's got himself another title shot somehow. This time it's against Hitchins, and it's been a really fun build-up, which is really what they wanted. Nobody's thinking this is a competitive fight. I guess it could be competitive. It's more so Kambosos is not as deserving of a title shot as other people are, and he just gets it because of his name and because of the win off Teofimo Lopez that he's been living off of for the last few years. But I don't know. I think Hitchins absolutely dominates him tonight. I think that he jabs his head off. I think that he potentially, some people are saying he could stop him. I think it's possible the only guy to stop Kambosos was Vasily Lomachenko, who did it in like 11 rounds, so he's tough in there. So I don't know if I want to say Hitchins stops him, also because Hitchins is not a big puncher, but I do think Hitchins will win a very, very wide fight. I could be wrong, but I think he's going to dominate him. He's going to have a huge win, and that's going to put him on the map. In his hometown, in New York City headlining, beating somebody with the profile of George Kambosos is really going to say, look, I'm here, and I'm not leaving, and I'm one of those guys, and he's going to get big fights. Teofimo Lopez is a possibility if Teo decides to stay at 140. Other than that, he could fight the winner of Puello versus Matias. He could fight Gary Antoine Russell. I mean, those are just the champions. You got tons of other fun names in that division. It's going to be a really, really interesting night. And I think it is really Hitchins' coming out party on such a big stage. But the build-up has been really fun. Kambosos is a funny guy to, watching the build-up. I don't hate him, but I just don't think that he is elite. And I think Hitchins, I don't even know if Hitchins is elite, but I think he's closer to that than Kambosos is. Co-main event, Andy Cruz gets into an IBF final eliminator and against Hironori Mishuru. And, I think that this is a fight that Cruz will win, but I think it's going to be tougher. I feel like we've seen Cruz have some good nights and some bad nights. Not like he's ever been hurt or close to beaten or anything. Most of his wins have been very dominant, but there's just been some nights where he's in there with guys that he shouldn't be, and he just, loses around here and there. And I don't think that we really need to see that. So who knows? He could dominate in there and look fantastic. I think he's going to have, a little bit of a challenge, but I think it's one he should come out of. And, he wins this. He's in with Raymond Murataya, which is a tremendous fight at lightweight. And, is really the new generation of 135-pounders coming through. Loma just retired last week, and now it's Andy Cruz, who is also one of the best amateurs to come in and take his place, potentially. So, yeah, I like this fight, and I like the position for Andy Cruz, and let's see what he does. Terry Moana returns against Aleem Whitfield, who is, I think he's 9-0, something like that, or he's also undefeated with a lot of knockouts. So it's gonna be this is gonna be a really fun fight. I still think Terry Moana wins, but again, we've never seen Terry Moana in there with anybody who has any kind of idea what they're doing. So we'll see if he just gets another first round knockout. I still think he'll stop him, but I think it's gonna be he's in there with somebody who can also throw a punch now. And, yeah, it's going to be fun. I think I heard Shannon Briggs on stage during the face-off, but I'm not sure. But he's always fun. Pablo Valdez versus Cesar Diaz. They're saying this could be a good fight. Pablo Valdez is a guy who's undefeated. But he's never really been tested, so it's maybe a test for him. I'm sure he has a great crowd there. Joaquin Moses gets on the main card. Shakur's cousin, he's been really exciting to watch. Nishant Dev returns. He's weird. He's got a lot of support behind him. Eddie Hearn saying he will change boxing in India forever. He's their first, maybe the best Indian boxer in a while or maybe even ever. So he's got a really big future. It's only his second fight. He had his first fight 5 months ago, but he's finally back. Hopefully they can get him more active. But he had a good knockout last time. So let's see what he does in there tonight. And then Adam Maka kicks off the card with his pro debut. I was expecting him to be a little bit higher up for his debut, but this is a very prospect-heavy card all of a sudden. Tito Mercado was supposed to be on this. He got injured. Alexis Barrier was supposed to be on it as well. I think that he got injured. So it's just not been going their way. But they still got some solid guys on this card, and I'm really excited for it. I think it should be a fun night. And Hitchins Kambosos will be interesting for sure. We also have a BKFC card in the Mohegan Sun headlined by Parker Porter versus Dylan Klecker. That should be decent. Brandon Ward returns on the card versus Junior Rumley. Jorgen De Castro versus Josh Watson. Again, nothing too crazy. Just a fun BKFC card. The nights in Mohegan Sun are always great, so I have no doubt that this will not be another fun event. We also have the returns of Nonito Donaire, who comes in against Andreas Campos for the WBA interim bantamweight title. And this is one that I'm a little bit skeptical of. Just because, he's getting a little bit up there. He hasn't fought in almost 2 years, and he's coming in against, Andres Campos has been in form for an interim world title. He should not be jumping right into a world title fight. So, I don't know. I honestly, part of me thinks that Nonito Donaire may not even win this fight. If he does, then I'm wrong, but I would like to see him fight Juan Francisco Estrada. I've seen some people saying that. Estrada also has a fight. He's fighting Kareem Arce Luga over 10 rounds. Don't really know who that is. I'm sure he'll win that. But, if these older, kind of last generation bantamweights, super flyweights, whatever, want to keep fighting, and they're in the same division, just have them fight each other. Why not? I don't think that we need to see them get into world title fights if they're not ready to fight at that level anymore. But who knows? Donaire could have a great win and show I've still got it. So, we'll see what happens for both of them, and maybe they will fight next. We had the announcement of Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte for August 16th in Riyadh for the esports weekend. Listen, I do really like this fight. I'm honestly a little bit surprised this is a pay-per-view headliner when Moses Itauma has just been all these kind of meaningless fight, and now he's in a big one. But, I'm not mad at it. It's a great fight. For both, it makes sense. Dillian Whyte's been looking for a big fight. He gets it finally against somebody that, I don't know what his chances are like. But he may think, this kid's never been in there with somebody real. I'm real, and he'll get a really great paycheck for it. So I can understand why he's taking it. I can understand. Moses Itauma, on the other hand, this is a big step up where he's facing a really big star a big British heavyweight star, so he's going to get to have that, really showcase talent, and he's going to stop him. He's going to beat him up. Again, there's always the worry of, Dillian Whyte does have that power. We've never seen Moses Itauma get punched before, really. So, let's see if he can take a crack. But I think Itauma is going to win this, and he's going to put on a huge statement and make it look easy. And all of those people who know Whyte are going to be like, wow, But it really is. It's not Whyte's time anymore. It's a 20-year-old versus a 37-year-old, and yeah, I really like this matchmaking. And this is somebody that Itauma can get. He was a huge profile still, and is still having wins right now, even if they're not good wins. And he beats him. He gets to become that, that next star, instead of having to go in there and fight somebody like Joseph Parker, where it's a real risk. So, yeah, I'm really excited. The card is great. Nick Ball, Sam Goodman. Again, I'm not a fan of guys coming up in weight and then immediately getting a title shot. That's what Nick Ball's last defense against TJ Doheny was, even though that was off a stoppage loss. So that really made no sense. Sam Goodman at least was, meant to get a title shot at 122 for Undisputed. So I don't hate this fight. I think it could be fun. But I don't know. I just feel like there's better guys in the division that Nick Ball could be fighting. Kakache versus Ford is a tremendous 50-50. I guess neither of them were going to fight Sugar Nunes. I thought that both of them were options for him. It seemed like that was the direction we're moving in. It seems like they're just going to fight each other now for the IBO title. I don't know why neither of them went to the IBF, but whatever. It's a really good fight. Boxer versus puncher. Should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that one. And then you've also got on the card Hayato Tsutsumi versus Kais Ashfaq. So Ashfaq is a British fighter who, this is the mismatch on the card. He's had some decent fights, but he's never really won anything big. And then you have Tsutsumi, who's only had a few fights, but has been one of those Japanese prospects, I guess, that has been rising to contendership very quickly. And I think that this is a fight that he'll easily win. But, it's cool. I think he may be a ring ambassador or something, but I like Turkey taking some of these Japanese fighters and getting them on his cards as well, because they are maybe the best country for boxing in the last few years with how many champions they have. So, yeah, I like that fight. And then opening up the card is the biggest shock. Filip Hrgović versus David Adelaide. So, these guys both fought on the same card last time out. Hrgović beat Joe Joyce, and then Adelaide beat TKV very controversially. The British Boxing Board of Control just said that Adelaide and TKV were going to rematch for the British Championship at August 23rd in Manchester on a Queensberry show. They just said that like a few hours before this got announced. It was so weird, and I don't know if TKV knew about this. I'm guessing that fight hadn't actually been agreed yet, and the offer came up like, hey, you want to step up to world level and fight Hrgović? And Adelaide's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So Adelaide's going to be vacating his British title, and I think that this is a fight that that Adelaide should not be taking. I understand he wants to get into the world level. I didn't think there was any rush to do that yet. I thought he could fight TKV, show he can beat him, because he wasn't winning that fight. He beats TKV, then he can, jump over to, fighting somebody like Dave Allen, who I think Dave Allen versus Jimmy TKV should now be for the British Heavyweight Championship. Fight somebody like Fraser Clark, stay in that scene a little bit longer, clear it out, then you can move up to world level and fight other guys there. Hrgović is coming off a win. Hrgović has only ever lost to Daniel Dubois. Sure, he's not the best heavyweight, but he's still in really good form. He's still got it. And David Adelaide, he's not on that level. Not yet, at least. So I think this is honestly a pretty decent mismatch. I like it, because it could be fun, and Adelaide does have a lot of power, so there's always that possibility. But yeah, no, I see Hrgović winning this fight. Probably by decision. Actually, no, I see him stopping him. I only say decision just because Hrgović fades so much in fights, and that's where Adelaide can really come into play, because he'll also fade with all his muscles. But if he can keep a little bit of the power late on in the fight, that's when it could get dangerous for Hrgović. But I think Hrgović wins this fight. It's a bit of a mismatch, but it's an interesting one they're making it. I thought Hrgović was going to get like the Zhilei Zhang rematch, so it feels like they don't really want to give Hrgović a big fight, but they're willing to get Adelaide the big step up. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, we did have some cards this week, I should say. Thursday, we had PFL World Tournament 5. So we had the first semifinals. This time it was the welterweights and the featherweights. So just jump right into it. Thad Jean beat Jason Jackson. I don't know if this was a controversial decision. It was a really close fight, razor thin, but I thought Thad Jean won it like 55-45, And that's not a scorecard, but I'm just saying, in how close it was, I think that he deserved the win. I thought that he looked really decent. He grappled really well and was able to strike, with a little bit with range and precise. And I thought that he had a really decent win, and against Jason Jackson, that's a huge win with his resume and his experience and pedigree and a former Bellator champion. So it was a huge win for him. I see some people did think that Jackson was, deserved the decision, but I think that Gene did enough. And so he's now set to face Logan Storley in the welterweight championship in a very competitive 50-50 fight again. Storley just dominated Masayuki Kikuri 30-27 all the way around. Or actually, no, that one was not all the way around. But I thought it was, sorry. But he just wrestled him to oblivion, had him, Kukuri could not do anything to escape. I thought that Storley looked really, really strong and controlling and dominant in there. And, this is it's going to be a really tough fight for Thad Gene. I think Storley, I was watching this and I was like, he could win this whole tournament. I was thinking winner of Jason Jackson, Thad Gene, just because I was so excited for that fight. But looking, I'm like, oh, Storley may take this whole thing by storm, and I really think that's possible. But I really like this. I really like this main event, this championship they've got going. As for the featherweights, Jesus Pinedo knocked out Gabriel Braga in like a minute. Yeah, it was a first round finish, like TKO, about a minute and a half in. Just drops him and then just gets on him, and that was it. They have closes out their trilogy in dominance fashion. They were one apiece. He proves, I'm the better guy. And he's moving on to the finals against Movlid Kaibulaev, who dominated Tae-Kyun Kim. Kind of similar to Logan Storley. He had the 30-27 all the way around. But just wrestled him the entire fight, wouldn't let him give him any success. So that's definitely a big, matchup next, is you got your striker and your wrestler. It's an interesting one. I don't know if I were to say who wins that yet. I'm kind of leaning towards Pinedo. But again, if Kaibulaev can just wrestle him and just keep him on the ground the whole time, and it's wraps. But it was a really fun card, and I'm really excited for these championship bouts. The next one is next week, where you got 3 different divisions on the line, so that should be fun. You also had Adam Boric beating Jeremy Kennedy in a close fight in a featherweight alternate, but I did think Boric won that. Magomed Omalatov knocked out Anthony Ivy in the first round. That was great. Some really fun fights, like Kenley St. Louis submitting Muhammad Burkamov was awesome. Sorik Shields versus Joseph Luciano, he was dominant. Jason Dana versus Nathan Gilbert was a really fun fight to kick off the card. Alexi Pergande versus Mike Bardsley was fun. He was just really solid. I enjoyed PFL a lot this week. We also had OTX last night. Leanna Cruz versus Regina Chavez. And, man, I feel so bad for Regina Chavez because I think that yet again, I don't want to say she was robbed because this fight was really close, but yet again, I think that she deserved the win. This was obviously Regina Chavez fought Jasmine Artiga for the actual title in March, and that fight, everybody thought she won. This one was close, but I still think Regina Chavez did enough, and this eliminated her to fight for that belt. Leanna Cruz tore her ACL at the first round and was able to fight for the rest of the fight and win it. So, fair play to her. She fought really well. She was solid in there, but I thought just Chavez was too much. I thought she had the bigger pressure, and I thought that she deserved the win, and I feel really bad for her that she didn't get it. But it was fun. Like I said, Leanna Cruz is now mandatory for that WBA crown held by Artiga. She called her out. She called out Mizuki Hiruta. I think both those are makeable fights and fun fights. So hopefully she gets one of those title shots, and hopefully Regina Chavez gets another good decision because her record now is 8-6. Unless she fights, it should be 10-4. So I don't know. It sucks for her, but that's boxing. That's what you get when you get in there with somebody who's the A side and is undefeated and a champion. It's not going to go your way, and it sucks. It's broken. But anyways, Israel Mercado upset Brandon Pizarro. He did get the decision there. He dominated him, I thought. Looked phenomenal. Obviously, he fought, I think it was Leonardo Rubalcava is his name, the Matchroom prospect, a few months back, and I thought he beat him and didn't get that decision, but he got the one here tonight. So good for him to get that. He's now got the NABA super lightweight title. Hopefully he gets a decent fight next. Kurt Scooby beat up Haskell Rhodes in 6 rounds, gets himself another stoppage. Again, he's been decently impressive. He's had some flaws with his gas tank, but it looks like he just went 6 rounds and did really well. So I'm going to say it's time to make the Giovanni Marquez fight. They both seem to want it. Scooby really wants it. I don't know what the holdup is, so I'm hoping now that they neither of them have a fight book that's next, but who really knows at this point. But it's a really fun fight, and I hope that they do it. Excuse me. And then the undercard, you had a lot of Philly talent get great knockouts. Keith Colon got a second-round stoppage. Tyreme Haywood had one of the best body shot knockouts you'll ever see. It was tremendous. It was great. Sickening. And then Tamir Smalls got himself a stoppage as well. He had a huge weight advantage. But, yeah, it was a really fun set of prospects. It was a fun show overall. Main and coming event were both competitive for the most part, but I thought they both should have been upsets, and only one of them was. But that's boxing. Moving on from that, we're going to run through some other news. So we've got the announcement, or at least the kind of announcement, of Boots Ennis moving up to 154 pounds to return in August or September. Eddie Hearn said, that he's likely now to move up to super welterweight. This makes sense, as he's looking massive, and it's really hard for him to make 147. And, going into this, he's got a lot of potential at 154. I feel like he's done enough at 147 just because you don't need to go for undisputed. He's been unified champion. He's ready to go. As for who he fights at 154, I'm not sure. We also heard that the WBC is apparently going to order Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Sergey Bohachuk too, which I don't mind. It was a great fight around the first time around, a competitive one. Definitely warrants a rematch if you ask me. Bohachuk is mandatory with the WBC. Ortiz is WBC interim, so they're both waiting for that title shot against Sebastian Fundora. So why don't they just fight each other, and then the winner will get that. So, so that's what it's going to be for them. It's going to be Ortiz Bohachuk 2, it sounds, which makes a lot of sense. They're both waiting on a fight. I like that one a lot. And, we get on from there. Boots could fight the winner of that, although it'll probably end up happening around the same time as his 154 debut. He could go in and fight Yoenis Tellez. He is WBA champion, so he could jump up there and challenge. He's also IBF champion, so maybe he fights Bakram Murtazaliev. But I don't know if he does that. I think the names mentioned, I can't remember I know Brian Mendoza was on there. I know Bohachuk was on there, and there was one other name that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was someone else somewhat decent. I doubt that they're going to give him one of those huge fights first. He's just going to dip his toes in, but still a big fight. I mean, Bohachuk is a big, challenging fight, but 154 is the most stacked division, and it's just got another huge contender in it. So, really excited for that. As for what happens with his titles at 147, the WBA, Rolly Romero is already regular champion, so he's just going to be upgraded to full champion. And then he could defend against Shakram Giasov, I'd guess, because Giasov is mandatory, and this makes it easier for Giasov to get that title shot now that you don't have a star with it like Boots, who doesn't want to take those fights. So that's what I'm guessing. It'll be Rolly versus Giasov. As for the IBF, I'm sure it's going to be Crocker versus Donovan too. They had their final eliminator, and then they had to order the rematch because of how controversial the ending was. We know they're going to rematch soon, so it'll probably be Crocker versus Donovan 2 for the vacant title now. And if you can do that in Ireland, that's a huge fight for Ireland. Two Irish guys fighting for a world title, do it outdoors, be awesome. But moving on from there, you've got the announcement of Panya Pradopsary versus Carlos Canizales 2, August 1st in Caracas, Venezuela. This is a fight that I didn't watch, but I do know it was a very controversial decision. Canizales, everyone thought, won the fight, like, big time, and then Pradopsary won it. So definitely warrants a rematch. It was immediately ordered by the WBC. It's for the light flyweight championship. So it's a really, really intriguing fight, and one that I'm definitely going to tune in for if I can. And I hope that Canizales, still has a good performance, because he's a guy that I remember when he fought Kenshiro Taraji, I thought he could have beaten him. I thought it was close. So I feel like he's gotten the short end of the stick a lot, and I just hope he gets the long end this time. British Boxing Board of Control had some interesting stuff in their recent circular. Jack Rafferty versus Mark Chamberlain is reportedly a done deal. That could be on its own card, but I think it'll likely be on the Usyk Dubois 2 card, which is great. That is a fantastic fight. The British 140 division, everybody wanted it to be Azim versus Smith. They're now moving both towards world levels. You got Pierce O'Leary there, you got Rafferty, you got Chamberlain, and I really like this fight. I think it's very 50-50, and it's going to be two all-action, powerful guys, and it's sure to be fireworks. We also know that Sam Gilly versus Ishmael Davis is being ordered for the vacant British super welterweight title. I literally mentioned on my last episode talking about Sam Gilly because he's had a weird draw saying, he could fight Ishmael Davis for the British, and it seems like that's going to happen. It's a really, really solid fight. I like that one a lot. And then they also said that Zach Miller will be ordered to defend his British featherweight championship against Reese Edwards. Again, a fight that I thought that, a champion in Zach Miller, I thought he shouldn't be. I thought that Masoud Abdullah beat him. But, he's a guy that I thought was running. So hopefully Reese Edwards can make this an action fight, and we'll see who wins it. But I like that one too. All these fights, Rafferty, Chamberlain, Gilly, Davis, Miller, Edwards, are all like 50-50, really fun fights. So I'm looking forward to all of them. Gilly Davis in particular. as good as a Queensberry versus Matchroom fight. But we'll see what they do. Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Its prelims have been announced. I thought some of the fights they already announced were also on the prelims, but it seems like they're going to have like 6 fights on the main card. It's just crazy. But anyway, Scrappy Ramirez will be returning. He hasn't fought in a while, but he's going to be back on this card. We're not sure who he's fighting against. I just hope it's a decent fight. I think Victor Morales returning against Rene Alvarado, who's 34-16, but a former world champion, I think they said. So that'll be interesting. Morales has not been too active. But he's back out here. Alexander Hueche returned against Vincent Avina, who's 8-1-1. So that's a really, step up for him, a competitive fight. You got Joel Iriarte, who is, everyone's favorite Golden Boy prospect, 7-0, 7 knockouts. He's in with Yusuf Metu, who's 11-2. So MVP does like to test these prospects early. And my only question with this card is how long is it going to go on for? I feel like they have so many fights to it, and they're all long. Like, these are the prelims. And I'm guessing the Morales and Scrappy fights are both going to be 10 rounds. Uriarte last fought in an 8-rounder. Hueche will probably be in a 6-rounder, but still, that's long for prelims. And then the main card, you've got multiple 10, 12-round fights. So I'm excited. It's looking really fun. A lot of great fights on it with MVP and Golden Boy. But I don't know. It just could be a long one. Suleiman Sissoko has been affirmed as mandatory for the Pacquiao-Barrios winner. He's been waiting for that one for a while. I think Barrios will probably beat Pacquiao just because of his age. And then Barrios versus Sissoko is definitely a fight that could happen. We know Barrios doesn't really like to take those really challenging big fights. He'll take Pacquiao, but he wouldn't take Boots. So he'll definitely take Sissoko. And we'll see how that one goes. Edwin De Los Santos and Samson Lukowicz have parted ways. Apparently, the decision to pull Edwin out of the Keyshawn fight was not his own. Apparently, it was made by Samson Lukowicz and his team, the promoter, but not actually the fighter. And, because they wanted more money if they were. It was some kind of weird decision where, I don't know, I guess Edwin did want to fight Keyshawn. And he was upset with that, and so they parted ways. So, a fair play to him. I don't blame him. I thought it was a good call from the team to not take the fight. But I know that Edwin's a fighter. He wants to fight. He doesn't want to pull out of a fight. He wants to fight for the title. He made weight. He wants to fight. So I get it. But we'll see. We'll see who he signs with next. But it's definitely interesting that it wasn't his decision. Bakodir Jalalev, Steven Navarro, and Jan Santana have all been added to the July 26th top-ranked card in New York City. This is becoming a very good card, like the New York City cards always are. Jalalev on here is interesting. He had his last fight on the Janabek card in April. Did not look great. Went the distance for the first time. So hopefully he can get another big knockout here and a decent step up. Because, again, he's a guy who I feel like is just kind of treading water when he could be moving up the heavyweight ranks and getting into big fights by now. But Steven Navarro is a fantastic prospect. Excited to see him back, and then Jan Santana as well. So that card is looking really, really decent. Headlined by Xander Zayas versus Jorge Garcia. But yeah, that's all I've got for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm really excited for UFC Atlanta tonight. It's going to be awesome. Like I said, I'll be tweeting the whole time. So, I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend. I'll do another episode hopefully on like Monday or Tuesday breaking down all the fights and stuff. It should be a fun weekend. Not a lot of stuff going on, but it should be fun. But thank you so much for listening, and peace out.